Hello, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of Breakfast at Ruby's. This is a weekly talk show slash podcast available on all the podcast services, YouTube, and recorded live on Twitch at Project Ruby everywhere. Breakfast at Ruby's on all the platforms, podcast platforms. And we talk about recent topics, we talk about pop culture, and just various events and situations that are relevant to us. This week, I have to my left Passions Planet. Hello.
Bonjour. I'm a regular guest on this little podcast. I'm Passion. I'm a trans streamer who can typically be found playing the weirdest games, being vocal about issues on Twitter, or generally just being a seductive mess. You can
Yes.
find me, Passion's Planet, on pretty much everything with the same at. Sometimes I manage to scrape Passion from apps that are up and coming, but typically Passion's Planet.
There you
Yeah.
go. And to my right, we have Urban Bohemian. Hello.
Hi there. First time doing anything like this. Very excited. I am Urban Bohemian everywhere. I also occasionally wake up angry on Twitter. I do posts of pics and food. I do all kinds of variety games on stream. Lately, variety has meant Animal Crossing, but that's okay. We're all stuck inside.
It happens.
Um, and yeah, you again find me Urban Bohemian everywhere, and I'm really looking forward to this.
Yes, very excited to have you both here. So thank you for being here, everyone. Today's episode is actually sponsored by grindingcoffee.co. It is a Black and LGBTQIA plus owned coffee business that is aimed at providing premium quality coffee to content creators and viewers alike. They have a wide selection of products from country coffee, cold brew, flavored coffee, and they even sell merchandise, which 50% of those proceeds from their merchandise directly goes towards charity to give back to several communities that the owners are passionate about. You can get some quality coffee with 20% off discount on me. You can use the coupon Project Ruby. So just go to grindingcoffee.co for a good old coffee, so you can have wonderful breakfast at Ruby's. It's a perfect fit for the show, so I'm really excited to be working with them and to be supporting a Black and LGBTQIA plus owned brand. So thank you, grindingcoffee.co. So now we can move on to our topics of conversation. This week has been very intense in the world of live streaming, to say the least. So this past Monday, Microsoft actually announced that they will be closing Mixer in July, and they have partnered with Facebook Gaming to transition their creators on there. The Mixer partners will have the choice to get partnership with Facebook Gaming, and people who participated in Mixer's open monetization program will be granted access to join Facebook Gaming's Level Up program, which for people who are more familiar with Twitch, it's basically their equivalent of Twitch affiliate. So it's one step below partner or Level Up program, but it's still a way for content creators to monetize their content. So firstly, were you shocked at all by these news of Mixer shutting down? We can start with Passion for this question.
I want to say yes, because it came absolutely out of nowhere.
Right?
The conversation of the day was surrounding otherwise about Mixer, and I wasn't exactly expecting them to kind of like throw in the towel right there and then.
Mm-hmm.
Reading into it, it's evident that it was very much kind of like conspired and discussed amongst the actual like Mixer team beforehand, but it was just a really bad timing alongside everything that was being discussed about the platform.
Mm-hmm.
But it's sad. It's really sad to see, because I did like there being some competitiveness for Twitch,
Mm-hmm.
and from what I saw of Mixer, they were very passionate about their representation, and every time I went on there, it wasn't just, like a blur of white faces sitting in like one seat. It was very much really broad right as you went on like the front page, which I really like to see. And it's sad overall that, there's now lacking another competitive thing for Twitch. But I'm glad that a majority of people have now managed to seek otherwise and go to either Facebook and follow along, or go to Twitch, or seek out to like YouTube and different variations of platforms. And all I have to say is like I wish the best for people who have been affected by this.
Yeah, absolutely. This news even shocked people who worked at Mixer, people who streamed at Mixer. I was actually watching a video game podcast, and they literally got it like in the middle of the podcast. Their chat was like, "Oh, Mixer is shutting down," and everybody was like, "What?" So like it was breaking news at the time, and I literally reacted and saw so many people react to this as it happened. And it was just shocking because I feel like it wasn't that long ago where they brought a lot of creators over and they spent allegedly millions to get some creators on there, and to suddenly, at least for anyone outside of Mixer, really, or I mean even people inside Mixer, it's just something that seemingly came out of nowhere. And they're technically only closing down in July, so people still have, I think, on the 20 something of July. So people still have a few weeks left to kind of figure out what they're going to be doing. But like Passion said, it's a very intense situation for them to be in, and I really hope for the best for everyone. What were your reactions to Mixer shutting down, Brian?
I was absolutely shocked.
Mm-hmm.
I know that they weren't, I have people I followed on Mixer. I personally did not visit the site as much because more people that I know currently stream on Twitch, but I did not think that they weren't, you know, doing well. I was happy to see that. I'm also in some groups where people stream on Facebook's gaming program, and they all seem to be doing well. And just like Passion, it was the idea that more sites for the same kind of content actually like strengthen this, this genre of entertainment. So it was really shocking to hear about. Even looking into the reasons that they claimed, it it seems like it feels like it's more than just, oh, the service didn't get the profits that we thought it would. But yeah, it was very shocking, really unexpected and super sudden. Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, after this happened, I actually saw a couple of articles that actually showcase that this is really not something that Microsoft is new to, of like launching services and then after a while just kind of giving up on them. I think they had like a music service at some point, and they eventually threw that away as well. So it's, for some people that follow Microsoft more specifically, for them it's not really that surprising because they already have a history of kind of dropping away things that don't really, profit the brand anymore. But I do think it is very unfortunate, like both of you said, that the live streaming circle, if you will, doesn't have. I feel like Mixer was the closest competitor to Twitch. It wasn't news to anyone who went over to Mixer, they saw a significant drop in their audience when it came to like Ninja and Shroud. People definitely commented on the fact that their communities were significantly smaller when they transitioned over to Mixer. But I still saw it as the closest competitor that Twitch could have had. So I hope that other platforms can kind of come from the shadows. There's already been a couple names thrown out, and there's already other existing platforms. So I hope that there's either an opportunity for creators to uplift other platforms to the point where they can be bigger competitors to Twitch, or I think the industry of live streaming will be very unbalanced, and that's not good for anyone. I feel like people who have been making jokes on social media about like Mixer streamers and about how Twitch is superior and all those things, I feel like nobody's really winning from this. Like the creators that came from Mixer are have been screwed over majorly, and creators on Twitch are not going to have as many, like Twitch as a platform is not going to have as many incentives to provide better services because they're not going to have something to compare themselves with. I remember when Mixer came around, there were so many things that Twitch kind of like not stole, let me not say that, but they took from them, like the low latency situation. And that was one of the bigger ones I remember. Like having competitors pressures people to be on their best behavior and to do their best. So hopefully some of this will some of the platforms will be able to compete with Twitch, because even as a Twitch streamer, I feel like the platform needs to have some sort of rival, if you will. Not to kind of like speculate, but some people believe that the platform shut down due to the recent allegations of racism from the upper level management, or people say it's due to the millions that they allegedly spent on recruiting former Twitch partners to their platform. Do you think this was some sort of mismanagement on their part? Do you think this was due to the allegations of racism? Or do you think it was both or something else entirely? We can go with Passion this time.
I think it was just very uncanny timing, unfortunately, on their behalf. It may have thrown a spanner into the works, but I don't think it was the overall answer to everything. I think with everything that happened on that day that everyone did witness, I think it was just very much decided to either release the news early or just to kind of prompt publications to focus on this right now as a way of saving their ass at the same time, because Lord knows these corporations love saving their ass when it comes to claims like that rather than owning up to it.
True.
So I think it's just it was an easy answer to maybe broadcast that news on that day.
Yeah, the thing that was made clear on social media was that Mixer employees were granted a new job, or they were granted a job. Like people don't really know if that means they're gonna be going over to Facebook Gaming, if they're gonna be relocated within other parts of Microsoft. So people don't really know. So there's still kind of not a campaign, but there's still an outcry in the community for those people in management that had in positions of power where they were they were accused of these allegations of racism from within. So I hope those people get the proper consequences, and this doesn't just get, pushed over like under the rug, and they're able to be terrible in either a different platform or in a different part of Microsoft. So what do you think of the Mixer streamers who have been getting Twitch partnership immediately after joining, or returning in some cases to Twitch, regardless of the requirements? What do you think of those, Brian? I already see you have some thoughts.
I feel like I need my fan here. Like, let me
yes.
just. I'm not trying to throw shade at anybody.
No.
I honestly, I'm of two minds about it. If when a service like this goes, it's obvious that Twitch was going to reach out to high performing creators on Mixer. It's obvious that they were going to reach out to them and say, "You're shortlist. We're going to fast track you," because they want that money, they want that revenue, and they want those views. The problem is for people who have been on Twitch, some of which like stayed when they saw people go to Mixer because they thought maybe Mixer was easier to achieve certain levels that Twitch has held back. For people who on the platform who have stayed on Twitch for years and have been working towards, growing their metrics, growing their audience, growing their brand, to find out that people have immediately been offered, not even tried to apply. There was one tweet at least one tweet I saw where the person was posting a letter that Twitch reached out to them directly to say, "Hey, we'd love to invite you into the partnership program." Like, they didn't necessarily apply. So we've been seeing people who don't apparently have the numbers, who don't have the metrics that Twitch has held all of people who've stayed on Twitch to, immediately getting partner, being granted partner. And it feels very unfair. It feels extremely, extremely unfair. Admittedly, this came out of nowhere. Yes, companies like Microsoft and Google just decide to drop things. And yeah, Twitch had a vested interest in doing this, but because there's often no transparency from corporations, even to whatever you want to call us, contractors, assets, content creators, etc., there was no heads up for us at all. So it feels extremely unfair, especially if anybody is thinking about partner right now, has a partnership application out right now. Did all of that just get shoved to the side so that they could appeal to these new people from Mixer? That just feels terribly unfair to everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. There is another criticism that we could get into when it comes to Twitch giving these partnerships so easily due to other things going on that we'll get into. Um, but I definitely think it's also unfair in the sense of it's really not that big of a secret that a lot of the people who went to Mixer were people who had applied to partner. Some of them I heard multiple times and they got denied multiple times. And there's been like some sort of sour energy when they switched over, and them talking badly about Twitch and them saying that Twitch didn't really appreciate or value them, which is valid. It's a valid criticism, it's a valid concern of theirs. But it bothers me that some of those people may have been coming back, and like after a stream they get an email when, like you said, some people have applied and they've been waiting for weeks, and they have the stats, they have all the requirements, and Twitch just has either ignored them or they're still working on making them partner. I don't know how long that takes, but like it's just it's a weird thing that, I mean, it's not weird. It makes sense from a business standpoint. Like, they're doing it because they're like opening their arms and being like, come here babies, we're gonna take care of you over here. But
Right.
it's still, it's shitty for the people that have been here for so long, or for the time that these people have transitioned over to Mixer. And a lot of us have stayed on Twitch being like, no, I'm gonna work at it, I'm gonna try, and we're gonna see, and maybe one day it will happen for me. And just to see kind of that happen, I don't think it, I mean, it's not that I don't think. I know for a fact this doesn't come from a place of like jealousy, because I know for a fact there's at least going to be one person that's going to be watching this or listening to this being like, oh, they're just jealous because they're not a partner and these people are getting partner. Like, that's not where this is coming from, because I've never actually applied for partnership. So it's definitely not the case. It's just that looking at the community, there's this sense of like people moving over to a different community and talking so much crap about the Twitch community, and then all of a sudden being like, hey, I got partner, y'all. Hey, I'm gonna be representing the brand that I've been talking shit about for the past months/years. And it feels odd to someone who never left the community to be like, oh, now you're gonna be representing them? Interesting. What do you think, Passion?
I don't think. I've been really avoiding this. Like, aside from some of the things I've kind of seen here and there on my timeline, I've just not really been focusing on the kind of Mixer people coming over and getting partnered. I've seen it and I do have thoughts on it. It's just I don't really I don't feel comfortable knowing that people are coming over to a platform without knowing what's going on at the moment, especially.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels distracting in a way to people who are now just getting involved in Twitch communities and not having Twitch people on their timelines and not seeing the shit that's going on at the moment in regards to people who work with Twitch and staff and moderators and everybody of the sort, even people who are streaming into Twitch. And I think it's really unfair for people to now just learn that after they get partnership and they can't really like back out immediately, or people who have just kind of brought their community over here and have learned that information and have now just been like, well, I can't move my community over to yet another platform if I want to disassociate myself from Twitch. So that's one takeaway that I really am frustrated about, is that people have now come over to Twitch thinking that it maybe in comparison to Mixer equal in regards to how they treat people and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
which isn't the case entirely.
Right.
So I really do hope that people who have come over and have managed to gain stuff already do kind of get the right mutuals on their timelines and do just inform themselves about the community of Twitch and the culture of Twitch and everything surrounding it instead of just thinking that it's, peachy clean because you've managed to come over here with your community. So I hope that they get some education in at least about the subculture of Twitch.
Yeah, for sure. We will definitely be getting into the issues that have been going on in the Twitch community in just a little bit, but I wanted to bring up a couple points from the chat. For people who don't know, this is actually recorded live on Twitch. Come over sometime and watch this live as we do it. And Stefan actually said in chat, I get wanting to give people a place to go, but at least have them apply. And that's actually something that I noticed in the Mixer blog post. They said that people will have a chance to apply for these programs on Facebook. You know what I mean? So like, obviously for some people it will be guaranteed due to their audience sizes and stuff like that, but there's still a sense of like, you're gonna apply, or there's gonna be terms for you to negotiate and stuff like that. And it's interesting to me that, and I'm literally not talking out of my ass, I've seen people stream one time. They're like, I'm back to Twitch. I don't know what I'm going to do. And then literally the same day or the next day, they're like, oh my God, it finally happened out after all these years. I'm like, half of these years you spent them on Mixer, but okay, girl, it's fine. It's fine. I'm not a hater. It's fine. It's definitely interesting, and we can get into the issues going on Twitch now, actually. So over the past weekend, more than 70 people have come forward with their stories of gender-based discrimination, harassment, and sexual assault against community members, Twitch employees, and partners. So as a response to that, this past week there was hashtag TwitchBlackout started by the community, which was a 24-hour protest in support of everyone who shared their stories, everyone who came forward with all the accusations and such. So since then, some people may have discredited the blackout. Some people may have said it was, just a bunch of irrelevant people or mid-tier streamers trying to do something that didn't make any sense, but several news outlets did pick up on it, and Twitch did pick up on it as well, and they released a statement. So this is Twitch's quote. They said, "We take accusations of sexual harassment and misconduct extremely seriously. We are actively looking into the accounts concerning streamers affiliated with Twitch and will work with law enforcement where applicable. We're thankful for the bravery shown by those who have come forward to speak about their experiences, and we are committed to working to make the streaming community safer for everyone." So this was their statement, and so far the only thing that they've done was ban a handful of people that were involved in these accusations. So, first things first, what did you personally feel about the Twitch blackout situation? We can start with Brian this time.
I felt like it was a good thing. The only reason that I initially was a little bit weird about it was because it came out of nowhere. I was chatting with a friend who also streams, and we were in DMs on Discord, and all of a sudden they said, "Hey, did you see this Twitch blackout?" So, it came out of nowhere. Once I looked in the reasons for it, and once I started just going back and seeing a lot of the stories of people, even at that point, who had they'd made the posts, they had talked about situations, they had named people, or they had danced around naming people because they were still afraid of retaliation. It seemed important. It seemed like a really good reason to make an economic boycott, because unfortunately that's about all we can do. As the content creators for the company, we are essentially the only way we can say is we're just not going to have any audiences that day. And I felt like the people who chose not to stream, it was a great showing of support. And the people who did choose to stream but also talk about it so that they could engage people in it and they could educate more people, I felt like everybody who participated in it, whether not streaming or streaming about it, I felt like everyone who did came to it honestly and earnestly.
Mm-hmm.
So I was really excited to see it.
Yeah. I went about it with the mindset of, yes, absolutely, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna support everyone, and I'm not gonna judge people who do stream. However, there was an interesting thing that happened. I saw that there were people who streamed and didn't acknowledge anything going on, which to me was interesting to say the least, because it's like, how do you not address the situation? Because I saw a lot of streamers go live and either share their stories or even talk about the subject. Because obviously, in no way I would want people to feel pressured to share personal information about themselves or to share vulnerable stories about themselves. So definitely, that's not where I'm coming from. It's more of like saying that some people aren't streaming today and this is why. And I'm choosing to stream today to raise awareness for these issues. And I just didn't like the fact that people were actively criticizing people who were taking part of Twitch Blackout. Like, I get it, it was a last minute thing, but things also need to be like, action needs to be taken quickly, you know, when it comes to situations like this. Like, if as a community we didn't act that quickly, we may have not gotten a statement quickly either, and we may have not gotten media coverage for it either. So as much as it was not very organized and very last minute, it did a lot of good, at least for the community, for everyone to raise awareness to this issue. What did you think about this, Passion, and everyone's reactions to it as you
I'll add
saw it?
on to what you were just saying about last minute things. And I think a majority of protests do have to be last minute.
Yeah.
Because from what I've seen, that's practically been the case, which has been evident over the past month, which has been evident over the past 100 years. Even if you self-reflect on Stonewall, I don't recall, you know, the majority who were involved sitting in there and going, you know what, today's today. Yeah, let's go ahead.
Putting up
Oh,
a
actually, no,
poster.
do you want to do it like on Tuesday instead? Like,
No one's scheduling this,
Yeah.
right?
the retaliation of just being like, okay, enough is enough. It's just, that has to be the way. People could have done it the day of, but they decided, okay, realistically, how are people still going to be informed about this? Will people still come forward over the past few days and it will inform even more people? It was a way of still broadcasting the fact that people could still come forward. It could still be on your timeline within the few days. And it was a great way of doing it within the next 2 days of everything coming forward and retaliating it with it. So I appreciate that. It was last second, because I do think it's a quick way of jolting up people on Twitch and being like, okay, get your shit together. This isn't happening on Wednesday. If you are streaming, inform your community. If you're not informing your community and you are well aware of it and shit like that, then, you know, people can react as they wish. I really appreciated seeing the people who put it together, because I actively follow one of them, and I was seeing it on my timeline just slowly coming together and seeing like the media coverage and seeing how happy they were to actually see this actually getting attention from media, which I think a lot of people were fearing was that it was just going to be looked across like from Twitch. But the second the media coverage hit, it was just like, okay, now we'll pay attention. So I'm happy
Yeah.
that happened. I don't have too much that hasn't already been added to, because I think a majority of people will already know kind of like my views on this kind of thing. But I do have to agree that I don't think Twitch is going to do much further. I don't feel projected as a minority, and I'm sure that counts for other people as well. And it really discomforts me just even considering remaining on this platform personally. I've considered withdrawing my affiliate status, and I know multiple people have already done so and are considering so. I've considered going to Patreon and shifting content creation and support in that direction while still remaining on Twitch. But of course, that then comes to the fault of them still getting ad revenue if they're not getting bits and sub revenue. So there's a lot more that people can do now that isn't just not streaming on one day. There is a lot more to the conversation. You can uplift so many people who are speaking out you can find more people who are speaking out, because I'm sure a majority of them are great content creators, and you do need to be there to support and uplift their voice during this time. And there is just so much shit that Twitch can do right now that we will, keep our eye on and see. But from what I've witnessed over the past few days, even if we're going to draw on to the fact that they've just put together a Black Power festival with Doja Cat being one of the performers within that,
Yeah.
despite her anti-black
Right.
and
Yep.
working with an alleged rapist, it's
You
not
know,
looking good on Twitch's behalf.
yeah.
Let's just say that.
Yeah, and even
So
people, oh, sorry.
no, go ahead.
And even
I'm enraged.
people in chat, I by now I don't have the username on me, but someone mentioned the fact that Twitch redirecting these issues to the law in the midst of everything going on when it comes to protests for, obviously against the police and stuff like that. People were like, okay, this is also like not the greatest thing, because also the law doesn't really help a lot of people that are victims from these like sexual assault cases and stuff like that. And another thing that I will say is, where were all the statements when it came to like the huge claims for like racist people on the platform? Like, they never made a statement being like, oh, we take racism like very seriously and we're gonna ban everyone, we're gonna take measures for that. Like, I didn't see like any handful of people being banned for being racist or for being homophobic or transphobic, especially during Pride Month. So I do think that there is a lot that Twitch needs to do and they haven't really done. And for the people who may have the argument of, but change takes time, like, absolutely. But also change...
They've been given the time.
They've had time.
Yeah.
They've been saying that they will take accountability for years now.
Yeah.
And if they really want to take that accountability, then they can reflect on that over the past few years. And I hope with some of the moves that they've been doing, that draws in comparison with the accountability. But then I'm not even sure if a recent ban of a certain professional doctor is tied between this actual accountability, or if it's something else. Because I'd love to believe that they've self-reflected and gone, you know what, that shit that we, only temporary banned for, that should have been a all-time ban, just permanent.
Right.
But
it feels like they're going back and cleaning them. Like, they're trying to clean their tracks now for missteps that they've made in the past where, yeah, it was a slap on the wrist because the content creator came right back.
Right.
But that needs to be transparent if that is what they are doing. Because if they're huge streamers, you can't just ban people and just be like, there's no reason.
Yeah.
Because
Oh my
it then
goodness,
allows
right?
the person to then repeat that behavior and not be told what their negative behavior was and why you are removed from a platform.
And
Yeah.
it's also an example to say, like, this is the perfect time to make an example out of it, to say, here's what they did that
Yep.
caused this action. Because if they don't, it just puts a blanket level permission on all of the content, all of the behavior, all of the acts. It basically says, well, we know that they were bad and they're gone. You need to say why. I kind of keep
Yeah.
sticking to a point. The CEO, and it was like he wrote, of course, everyone does the thing on Twitter where they write a big document in like the app and they put all the text up there. He said, I want Twitch to be one of the safest places to create on the internet. And that line keeps sticking in my head, because it's like, what are you doing about that? What are you actually
Yeah.
doing about that?
Where have you been? Yeah, seriously. And it also says, like, for the people who, obviously, we need to hold the platform accountable, but obviously from a human standpoint, if someone fucks up, they need to be held accountable for their actions so that they can grow as a human, because obviously they can't be carrying around this weight of like the mistakes that they've done for the rest of their lives. Like, they have to know what they did wrong in order to learn from their mistakes. Not that, not that I was expecting or am expecting any specific people who have been banned recently to learn anything from their mistakes, but at least let the community know what happened and why you're doing what you're doing. And also, that goes with what the point of like, action takes time, but you can also update people along the way. You can also say, okay, here's our plan moving forward, here's the steps that we plan on taking, and listen to feedback from the community. I've seen so many people, so many communities from Twitch out there like literally breaking it down, being like, okay, this is what you could do. This is like people literally offering free labor for Twitch to be like, hey, this is what you should do to the platform. This is what we want. And then the next day they're like, hey, we have a festival, girls. And it's like, no, like not
That's
this.
not what we asked for.
Yeah, and this goes with what we were talking about. We hinted at it recently. It definitely feels like some of these decisions to give people partnership that came from Mixer definitely seems like very good timing for them to be like, we're such a good platform. You should totally come over. Definitely don't look at the news. But
Right?
we're great and come over. It's amazing and yeah. But I will agree with Passion when it comes to that part of like even questioning my presence on Twitch. And I was kind of talking about this earlier in the day with the community of like I've been kind of on and off this past week because everything has been going on and it's obviously very mentally taxing on everyone, but also like I don't know what I want to do. Like, I don't know if I want to redirect people to Patreon. I don't know if I want to, like, revoke my affiliate status. I don't like. There's a lot of things that one considers at times like this because, as we've been saying, apparently action has been taking a long time. So until then, it's like, what do we do? Like, do we keep supporting them? Do we just pretend that everything is gonna be all right? And it's hard because there's no right answer, right? Like I can't look at a streamer and be like, oh, you're allowing people to sub to you. Like I can't be mad at that because everybody has to make a living and everybody has their own situations that we may not know about. So it's a difficult situation. It's definitely
I think
a
if
difficult
you're
situation. Yeah.
sorry, if you're reading into streamers, I think checking their socials and making yourself aware of their VODs and stuff and really educating yourself on this own specific streamer and seeing where they stand on being opinionated, even if it's just a little scroll through their likes and stuff, you can really see where their heart sits. And if they're not amplifying people during this time or supporting people, or even if you reflect on a month ago, were they active during Black Lives Matter? Were they speaking out for that? Were they saying trans lives matter? Were they saying black trans lives matter? It's shit like that that should really resonate towards your factoring over specific streamers. And if they're not active throughout this past month with their opinions and views, or even amplifying other people's views, then I think it's easy enough to cut them loose and just be like, okay, cool, not for me. Because ultimately, if they're not out speaking towards this and these issues don't directly affect you, then when will they speak up for an issue that actually affects you, is how I see it.
Yeah. What steps do you think or would you like to see Twitch make moving forward? I don't know if they'll listen, but what would you personally, if you woke up tomorrow and you opened Twitter, what would be an ideal action from Twitch, an ideal thing that you would look at social media and you would be like, yes, Twitch, okay, this is a good step in the right direction? What would you say that would be, Passion?
I want to directly take a hit here at a queer specific thing and say I want the queer community to be represented by someone who is black to begin with. And I need a trans person on that team as well. I'm a little bit disappointed that it constantly remains to be ran by cis white gays who are thinking of the minorities, but ultimately I do think if we're factoring that we need the LGBTQA plus community represented, that it should be represented by the people who began Pride and who actually had the backup Pride to begin with, because ultimately we need to keep giving back to the communities that are often forgotten about. And when you look at events that are queer orientated run by Twitch, they're often forgotten. You rarely see people of color on there. You rarely see black people. You rarely see trans people. And that needs to drastically change. And that's not going to change unless you get rid of the white gays who run it. And that's no attack drag. Thank you, before anyone comes for me. It's just, it factors into how people think. And if they aren't actively speaking out on those things on social media as well, then I don't really think that that's going to make a drastic change unless you really take away the people who are representing some of these communities. So that's one thing that I think could factor into it. And
Yeah.
I also think that they need to listen to Black people, period.
Yeah.
There's no glossing over that. They just do not listen to Black folk. And I don't know what it is that they
Yeah.
keep actively running into these problems where I constantly go through my timeline. There's always a thread about what Twitch is doing wrong to represent Black folk. And I think they need a massive redo of emotes as well, because
Yep.
so many of the emotes are used in a nasty way against if a Black person appears on camera, people spam try hard. If an Asian person is in the background, they spam one of the various Asian emotes.
Kappa
It's
Pride.
it just really needs to change, because maybe no one's ever come up to them and just said, you are adding to this, you're really adding fuel to the fire. But that emote rehaul is drastically needed, and I'm really glad that they have taken away some emotes because of the accused. But I was hoping that more would come with it, because there's a lot of internalized encouragement of racism, transphobia, all of the nasty above, pretty much. And I think similar to how we are praising everyone who is kind of saying ACAB and stuff like that when it comes to Black Lives Matter, it goes into I've lost my train of thought now because I'm just like on a tangent.
Oh, I hate
But
when
it
that
goes into
happens.
similar where
It's a good one though.
Oh god, I've actually lost my train of thought. There was a good thing coming out there.
Do you mind if I
Basically,
chime
I'm
in?
just
Okay.
yeah. Maybe you know where I'm going with that,
Um,
or something similar.
yeah. No, I think the fact that there is, and as I was saying earlier about like, there's constantly feedback at Twitch when it comes to like threads of people being like, we need our communities to be protected, we need better moderation, we need all of these things to take place. And I've seen multiple summits take place where people literally break down what we need, and there's still a sense of like, we're listening, but okay, but when are you acting? When are you going to be doing something about these changes? Because and I've seen people constantly say stuff like oh, they Twitch is as good as it's gonna get, or it's one of the best platforms when it comes to like diversity, or when it comes to representation, or anything like that. And it's like, well, first of all, there's not many competitors. So it's like, okay, of course they're the best because they're one of the only ones that exist out there. But it's constantly this thing, and I notice it time and time again, and very often I say this to my friends, where like we see a new event come up and we go through the list of people a part of it, and we're like, wait, this is very whitewashed. Like this, like there's literally like, they basically it's like, oh, they have a couple of people of color, and it's even, I will go into it as well, like there's even the elements of like white passing individuals. I feel like for some reason they go sometimes with content creators that for them it's like, oh, it's fine, we can put these on there, and it's like, well, you just chose a couple of them, and it's like, why don't you properly represent all the shades of the community, all of the shades of everyone? And it's so disheartening for people to be like, oh, but they have Black History Month. Oh, they have the Asian, I forget the full name of it, but Asian American Heritage Month.
Asian and Pacific Islander. It's I mean, I will say that Twitch has gotten better. In terms of when they do these campaigns, when they do we're giving over front page slots to people, the list of names has gotten better over time. But again, it feels like every year it's like, oh, hi, we're Twitch. We've suddenly discovered that Black people exist. Here's a whole bunch of them that we're going to put on the front page. We're not going to provide any additional protection, any additional support, any additional moderation for their channels. We're actually just going to put this marginalized group out in front of everyone on our service, and everybody have at it, which of course leads into more harassment. And it's like, that's not really helpful.
No.
That's not great. That's putting a target on us. And and even now, yeah, Twitch doesn't really I've recently been in 2 of Twitch's videos. I only know the reason for that is because there was massive social media attention on me and the other people like that they featured. But Twitch has never asked me for anything. They've never talked to me. They've never said, "Oh, hey, would you like this?" But all of a sudden, like just enough attention elevates you to now they consider maybe putting you on that list, but everyone doesn't get that chance. They
Yeah.
don't actively recruit people who are diverse. Most of the LGBTQIA plus people, most of the Black people, most of the non-white, non-cis male streamers have usually been recruited by their friends who stream and say, "Hey, I think you'd like this, and I want to see more faces like you on Twitch." Twitch is not saying that.
Yeah.
It's communities coming together to say, "I want to see more Black people on the platform. Let me ask my friends who I think might be interested in this if they'd like to do it." None of that's come from Twitch. It seems very, very grassroots, but Twitch benefits from
Yeah.
our work, which, I mean, of course they do. They're the company that pays us.
Yeah.
But
But I get what you're
But yeah.
saying. Because they have this appearance of like, oh, look at all these people that we're highlighting, when in some cases they weren't even the ones recruiting them. They basically were like just accepting it. They were like, oh yeah, you have that recommendation, great. And I think that's a thing that Passion was kind of touching on, like, if within the company there is legitimate diversity and there's people who actually want to look for diverse creators to spotlight and to protect, essentially, then this wouldn't be a problem to begin with. I feel like especially with a lot of the accusations as well coming through, some of them come from within Twitch, and it's like, okay, so if there isn't any legal complications, the person is just going to have access to my channel and to the channel of the person who accused them of those things, you know what I mean? So it's like, it's complicated for sure. And I feel like it's not difficult as well for Twitch to find diverse talent. Like, there's literal, like, so many teams that feature Black people, people of color, LGBTQIA talent. Like, there's literal, like, communities that are heavily promoted everywhere on social media, and there's no excuse for, a friend having to, like, recommend their friend and be like, hey, I know this person, do you want to bring them over as well? Like, that's a ridiculous thing to me, because as a company, they should be looking at their top teams on the platform and look at the teams that are representing diversity, you know what I mean? So I think Passion has eventually found her point again. So are you good?
She's got a point.
She's got multiple points.
To add to what you just said, there is also a way not to, really shake up Twitch and make them go, whoa, really? But there are also people of color and Black people who are LGBTQIA+.
Imagine that.
Oh,
so
what?
I don't know if they've ever self-reflected on that and thought,
You mean to tell me there's such a thing as intersectionality?
Sometimes they just have to, look for it. So the point that I was making when I was bringing in the ACAB sort of comparison was that the police system could easily be compared to what Twitch is happening, like, at the moment, because it really needs to be built back up from the ground up.
Mm-hmm.
And it's such a broken system where we have constantly throughout the month, we've made so many, like, draw comparisons to everything that has happened, where ultimately these corporations or overall governmental things just go hand in hand because they're so broken. And if there isn't that encouragement of fixing this, rather than being like, oh no, we can just go back and, kind of like tinker with the issues, what you need to really instruct is to, from a broad retrospective of the entire Twitch system, is to just fix their shit, like the entire thing. And you need to hear out people who want to fix it.
Yeah.
And it may be people speaking negatively of your platform, but there have been so many people on my timeline making incredible points, but unfortunately they don't have the massive platform to bring attention to it. I know that a couple of friends of mine who are partners are trying to give out that voice, but unfortunately, even they don't get attention from Twitch, or haven't been on the front page, or have never really been offered any sort of support from staff members and stuff. So unfortunately, even partners' voices go nowhere. And it
Right.
takes for the people who have that privilege of being heard by Twitch to speak out for there to actually be change and for there to maybe be a protest all across Twitch where people actually do throw the hat in the ring and do just go, okay, that's enough for me for now. Um, but I'm gonna have to take a bit from like your pocket because that's the only way that they're gonna listen to us,
Yeah.
and
True.
that's
Very
where
true.
it might have to start. But it's gonna need people to want to do that because I feel like a majority of people might be thinking, okay, the blackout was enough for me. That was real cute. I've done my bit of, like politics and standing, by people. But right now, I just want to like content create and I just want to, make my community really happy. And that's fantastic that they can. Like, I'm really happy that they can take away, themselves from the situation. But the people who have come forward with their stories can, and they will continue to see their abusers given platforms on this platform. That part.
Yeah. And I also don't understand why, in order for action to be taken, there needs to be legal implications with it. Like last time I checked, they have terms of service. So like
Yeah.
I
like
thought a lot of like what you said on socials mattered, but apparently they backtracked on that and said, you know what, nah. Even if you send a detailed report with all things that are offsite, we don't even respond to it. So I don't. If they really want to fix even their report system, we're going to need some like receipts for how they're changing it. Instead of saying
Exactly.
we're changing it, we're adding this, we're adding that. Well, I want to know what you're changing because
yeah.
it makes me not want to send a report when I'm actually doing something for someone or for myself. Like it's just it feels like it gets overlooked.
Yeah.
And if you're telling people who have accusations to come forward with a report button, it's a bit shit, in all honesty. And I don't think people should be led to their abuser's page
Mhm.
because there should be a way of contacting support in a different way other than just being like, here's the report button.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even if that means a more active social media presence, being able to slide into some person's DMs, while that's not always a comfortable area for every single person, and I also agree with that, it can actually help a lot of people to see people who represent that kind of like person to speak to or be on their shoulder or kind of that kind of approach to it. Okay,
It's
I'm
like a
done.
basic, yeah, it's basic service. It's a basic service that almost every other social media platform does. When you report something, I mean, their responses may be shitty, but at least they say, okay, we did look at what you talked about, and we've decided that it either does violate, it doesn't violate, it's in the middle. At least there's something. Usually, when I file a report on Twitch, it just kind of goes into the void.
Mhm.
Maybe that person will come back. Maybe that person will never come back. Maybe that person will be back the next day. You know,
Right.
um, it happened once where, like my friend, essentially, we had a stalker who we banned them, and then they went and made a bunch of fake accounts. They had a bunch of people come in. They followed the stream to other streams, and we reported every single one, and they were still coming. So the fact is, what happened to those reports? Like, can I get a case number? Can I go back and say, so what did you actually do here? Because
Yeah.
it looks like you did nothing. There's that, even that level of transparency and accountability, even on something as simple as reporting somebody for abusive content, would be great. That just
Yeah.
like that would be one little tiny step they could make that would make streamers feel better. Even if they said, okay, we looked at what happened and it doesn't really qualify, or we looked at what happened and we're taking action on it. That's it.
Yeah. And the thing is, they can they they can act quickly. That's a thing that people are also confused about because they're like, okay, things take time to happen, but at the same time, when a
I'm sorry.
certain doctor individual got banned,
Mm,
they were very quick to ban, they were very quick to refund subs, they were very quick to do things. Even when Ninja, back when Mixer was a thing, they recruited him and they were so quick to delete his channel, and then people were like, what the hell happened? And then they put his channel back up.
They ran
And
ads on it too, I think, because
yeah.
I think we
yeah.
covered it when it happened at a time on Breakfast where
Yeah.
they were running ads on Ninja's page, and they're able to be petty about these things. They're able to do it, but it's just it always seems to be when it's the big dogs and when it's the massive names that draw the attention, and when Twitch can get media coverage for doing these things. But the second it's like an affiliate streamer who has literally said like transphobic things, or an affiliate streamer who has downright said the M word,
Or a
it's
partner
just, it
streamer, even.
doesn't go anywhere. Yeah, even
Right.
if that partner streamer doesn't get like huge numbers, that still needs to be dealt with.
If the
Like,
person doing it or the person affected isn't at some whatever that quantifiable level is for Twitch, it's like it just doesn't exist for them.
Yeah.
it's just, it always feels like it only matters when they can get publications or a pat on the back from community members for taking a stand against something, instead of overall just always standing by your terms and conditions and your terms of service. And that's the really disappointing thing to constantly keep noticing, is that there really isn't protection had for pretty much anyone. I wouldn't even just boil it down to like minorities anymore. Even anyone who just comes forward about sexual allegations and stuff, it's just not taken seriously by Twitch. And we need some transparency to understand that they are listening, other than a black background on a PSD that they've edited and put text
Exactly.
on top. Like, I'm just bored of seeing that same old shit. Come up with something else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And also username moderation. Like when even in video games these days, like sometimes you want to make a certain, I remember I don't know what game it was, but I remember I was making a username, and I don't remember what happened. I think they even wanted to censor booty from it, because sometimes I do Ruby booty or something, and I was like, wait, what? So like, and sometimes there are certain words that have, like, for example, the word passion. Sometimes there's you can't spell passion without ass, so sometimes that gets, modded and stuff like that. But it's weird to me that people are able to make these usernames that sound like slurs. They're able to make these usernames that are directly attacking people, literally saying stuff about specific streamers. And having the email verification isn't enough either, because people just make multiple accounts. And I've heard that sometimes the same account works for, like, the same email account works for several different Twitch accounts.
Yeah, there's a setting on Twitch where it says that you can also add an additional email for your account.
Yeah.
So that you can just make another one.
Yeah.
And
And
it's
again,
that
that's
easy
not,
way of avoiding it.
and that's not outside of a technology purview for them to at least try to do something about. It's, there are always going to be ways around that. There are always going to be, I mean, trust me, I have seen every variation of somebody trying to say something racist, something homophobic, something queerphobic with their username. But when I report that, then what happens? Does it kind of do the wild cards go into the username? No, anyone just can make any username they want. And
Yep.
Twitch puts all the burden for moderation, all the burden for, and this is kind of looping back into what we were saying, all the burden for improving Twitch is still on users and content creators. Like, they put all of that on us.
Yeah. And outside companies like Streamlabs and Stream Elements, so that they improve their bots, and people are like, what is Twitch's auto mod doing? Like, of course it's not, it used to not exist at all. I remember a time where I streamed and auto mod wasn't a thing, but sometimes it also hides very interesting words, like I remember, or a combination of letters, and I'm like, why did you censor that? I remember
Oh yeah, like when I donated with like all cops are bad.
yeah. And
Oh my
Interesting that
God.
it grabbed that,
Yeah.
but
Wow.
it can't grab people saying slurs.
yeah, yeah,
I have learned something today. Okay.
yeah, so it happens. And I think communication is what it boils down to. Like, let us know, not that just you're listening, but let us know what you're going to be working on for the next half of the year. Just tell us, like, okay, we're actively working towards this. We hired an outside company to do moderation. I don't even remember. I think it was Ubisoft, and I think they recently, in the midst of all the allegations as well, I think one of the actions that they took, I think it was them, they hired an outside company to look into this. They didn't go to the law enforcement, they didn't look to any of it. They're basically just trying to improve the environment within the company, or at least that's what they said. But don't quote me on Ubisoft. I don't know if it was them or if it was someone else. But, you know, there are steps that you can take as a huge brand under Amazon, which we all know all the coin in the world. So, like, just actively take the steps to protect your broadcasters, because they're not going to be staying in there forever. Like, people will eventually get tired of it. People will eventually want to leave and go to other alternatives, and they're not going to have a platform forever if that's the case, because even if Twitch doesn't make a lot of money, or at least enough money so that Amazon can justify having them under their umbrella, Amazon can one day pull a Microsoft and be like, you know what? You gotta go. So you never know as well what that happens. But, you know, Amazon is its own can of beans that we're not gonna get into right now. But obviously, we want to end off the podcast in more of a positive note, because there's, you know, the discussions have been very pointed, but also very important as well, because these issues need to be voiced, they need to be talked about. And I always say this, it doesn't matter if you have 1 follower, 10 followers, 100 followers, or thousands of followers. Everybody should use their voice and should use their platform to try to improve the community as a whole, because it's a ripple effect. You know, if, you know, today we do this and then a certain amount of people listen to the podcast and they listen to what we said and they spread that with their communities, then that's going to affect so many people on Twitch and social media and such. So hopefully we can do a little bit of that with our platform over here. But we want to do a little bit of a segment that we've been doing called What We're Living For, which is where we highlight things that we've been enjoying as of lately, like video games, other content creators, music, films, etc. So I'm going to start with mine. So I have Blackpink's How You Like That. Recently they released a music video and a single before the album comes out, so I'm very excited for their new album. I'm excited for them to have more music. You can literally count how many songs they have, because they've been active for so long, but they still don't have a lot of music. So yeah, justice for Blackpink. Yeah, I've been really enjoying How You Like That by them. Staying within the music realm, I also, my good Judy Passion actually recommended What's Your Pleasure by Jessie Ware. I wasn't really familiar with this artist, but the album as a whole is totally me. It's like disco influences, very retro vibes to it, and it's one of those albums that you put in from track 1 and you almost don't even notice that it's a different song. It's almost like turning on those like hour-long YouTube videos where it's just like seamless within like this genre of music, and there's like songs that feel like they cohabit the same space, and it's so pleasant to listen to. I had to constantly go back to Spotify and be like, oh, let me add that song, because I was like, oh wait, it's a different song now, cool. Like, it doesn't like blur together, but it has such a flawless flow to it that I was like, yes, work. So I've really been enjoying that. I recently finished Pose in Hollywood on Netflix, both shows that push for diversity and for different reasons, obviously, but I definitely recommend both of those, and I'm so excited for the upcoming seasons of both of those shows. Who knows when it's gonna come out, but you know, the shows are not canceled yet, so that's great. And last but not least, I have a game suggestion. It's called Pokemon Cafe, and it's a free to start. It's basically free to play. And it's this mobile and Switch game where you basically run a little cafe, and there's like little puzzles that you do by like swirling around with a touchpad and stuff like that. It's really not that complicated. It's basically a mindless game, very cute, and I found that it distracted me so much and it put me in such a better mood because when you're doing a puzzle, for all intents and purposes, no matter how simple it is, your mind is focusing on something else, and it's a way of meditating, if you will, because meditating is about focusing on one thing and kind of letting everything else fall to the background. And with Pokemon Cafe, it's like your mind is still going, but you're focusing on this specific task, and it's so adorable, and everything about it is just precious. So I totally recommend Pokemon Cafe. Unfortunately, if you're a streamer, you're not going to be able to stream it because you have to play it in handheld mode because it uses the touchpad, which I was so sad about, but hey, at least I have something to do off stream. Now we can move on to Passion's picks.
Hi. I'll just add on to one of yours, which was Jessie Ware's album. I didn't really know too much about her either before I took a little gander into it. I just knew of her via her podcast that she has with her mother, where she brings in different celebrity guests like Carly Rae Jepsen and Vanessa Williams, and just talks about food and places to eat in London and stuff like that. So I've always enjoyed kind of like her vibe, but I've never really taken a gander into her music. But I knew that it was coming out, and I roam on like pop music forums and stuff, and I was seeing a lot of talk about it. So I took a listen to it on Friday, and it's a serve and a half, to say the least. It's very, like you said, it's very disco, very 70s, very of Diana Ross, Earth, Wind and Fire. I took like an instant influence of just being like, it's very like Dua Lipa's Future Nostalgia album, but for millennials. And it's great. It's really nice.
Yeah.
So if you ever want just kind of like a disco music just to play in the background as you work or something, it's groovy, it's really nice. Only negative is that it's not a continuous song kind of album where it doesn't all blend into one like disco albums used to.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that I do wish was a thing, but I will have to like cop the vinyl at some point because I love it. And the other thing that I've been living for is Disclosure, which is a Netflix documentary that delves into trans and non-binary representation over the past 100 years in television and films. And
So
it
good.
features people like Laverne Cox, Lily Wachowski, also known as half of the sisters who made The Matrix, Candace Cain, Chaz Bono, MJ Rodriguez from Pose, and tons of trans and non-binary folks. And the most impressive thing about it is that it's not just white trans representation. It really knuckled in and said, no, if you're going to get a Laverne Cox executive production, you are getting Black trans folk involved in this. And I love to see it. I'm such a cinephile, and I just love to see documentaries based on like film representation and stuff like that. And I was just in awe. And I really want to rewatch it because I finished it and I immediately was just like, maybe I'll give some more coins to this because it's just it's so good. Like
it is.
I wasn't bored at one point. I just wanted it to keep going and keep going and keep going. And I know that there was a lot left on the cutting room floor, and Netflix is uploading some of that on their Twitter recently. So if you're gagging for some more,
I'm
there's some,
excited.
like,
It's such a good documentary. Like
if you care for your trans folk, which you should,
which should be a given if you're listening to this.
Then I really do urge that you do watch it for some information about the representation that the community has gone through. And if you especially have a trans friend, it is the easiest way to kind of understand even just like a grain of what they go through.
Totally.
And the way that they are disrespected from friends, family, anyone who they come out to, and what those people have seen representation of trans folk of before they came out to them. And yeah, it's very wholesome. It's not completely positive in areas, so trigger warning going in that there is a lot of really bad representation that is brought up, but I feel like if you are an ally or a cis person, you will be able to sit through and just watch it without triggers, but I feel like for trans folk, it will be quite triggering for some of the representation in it. So just go in delicately if you are trans identifying, please.
Yeah. And honestly, they do give the proper warnings at the beginning. Netflix is really good at giving like trigger warnings and content warnings in general. But what I will say as well, as someone who, I mean, I'm technically genderqueer, but as someone who, I see myself more outside of the experience, because for me it was just like, you know what, my gender just blends in with everything. I'm not really someone who experiences dysphoria and stuff like that. So for me to see how many receipts they had, like they even at some point, and I was shocked to see this, watching this on Netflix and seeing that they had footage from Amazon Prime, for example, to me was like, wow, they really they really did that. And I know it doesn't sound like a huge deal, but they really dug
They've got to
in.
pay. This is the thing, is that they were willing to pay all of these
Yeah.
studios to use this footage and archive
Exactly, yeah.
footage and everything. And you can tell there was a lot of love put into it, because in one of those extra pieces, which I saw Laverne interviewed about, there were 600 television shows delved into and 400 films delved into overall as
Yeah.
like a detailed research thing. So you can tell that there was just so much heart put into it, and Netflix really stood by it. So major props to them for just doing that and really showing their political side lately. While I don't believe that trans rights are political, even as like a trans person, I don't think it's too political, because it should just be, human nature to just be
Right.
accepted. But I do
Right.
love that, they're willing to push away these people who support them and don't believe that. And I hope it does continue. And I feel like it being released on Pride Month was a fantastic way of being like, white gays, no, let's not
Nope.
celebrate. Let's, focus on trans people, and specifically Black trans people, and just learn your roots and how you gained this.
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
for sure. They even went into some details of like the origins of Pride and all that stuff, which there's a lot of misinformation about that goes around social media. So they even delved into that and how trans folk were treated by the white gays, as we like to say. They weren't treated nicely, let's just say that. And you can watch the documentary on Netflix. It's called Disclosure, and it's definitely one of the best, if not the best, documentary, LGBTQIA plus documentary that I've ever seen. Because like Passion said, it's not boring, it doesn't drag on, it gives you important information, but it also gives you like the proper receipts at the proper time, and it also treats everything with kindness. It never comes to a place of like, oh, let's shock them, because some documentaries can do that, but for
there's
them
also never anyone who shouldn't be speaking about it. That is the most
Perfect.
important thing.
That's
when you
great.
watch things of Stonewall and things like that, there's always a perspective of it that it's just like, one, you weren't there, and two, it's just not needed.
right.
So it was really nice to see that they did reach out to the people who did need to speak about it, and allow for the actors and actresses to really take in their roles of these trans folk in films and explain themselves and how they felt liberated by being a trans person in their own TV show.
Yes, so good.
Mm.
I heard you may have some picks as well, Brian.
Oh, yeah. So I guess like leaning back into like people are talking about Pose. Recently, one of my favorite things, like I basically call it my new Pride anthem, because I typically am like I'm a disco like old gay, so I'm
Yeah.
typically pretty bad at keeping up with like newer pop, newer divas, whatever the in thing is. But Billy Porter, with a group from the UK, the Shapeshifters, just released a song called "Finally Ready," and it is just, for me, it is very empowering to, like, because he had a previous career when he was closeted, and he basically had to kind of play like the black R&B singer, singing about love, singing about women. And along with the song, there's been this video about him being asked about like being able to actually sing from the perspective of a gay man, talking about falling in love and being ready for love and deserving of love. And it's a really just, and it's basically like you can't not dance to the song. I mean, it's Billy
Perfect.
Porter. It's amazing. And I heard that because of like throughout quarantine, throughout the pandemic, I have just been living for DJ streams. Like a lot of my favorite record companies, record producers have been setting up like virtual festivals, like an all-day festival on YouTube and Twitch and Facebook, and it's just lineups of DJs all day. And I have it on at work. I put it on the weekend. So any live set right now, because I can't go out dancing, and I would love to do nothing more than be out dancing until 4 in the morning and come home exhausted. But you can't do that right now. So I can put this on. I can basically, like, when it's my off time, make some cocktails, dance around the house, enjoy it. The fact that they provided all this, as a streamer, I just respect the heck out of this, because most of the times, like, honestly, like groups and DJs aren't really good at streaming. So they're really not. Like their
People
streams
have been
stop and
really
start.
pulling
The,
through,
the
and
bit rate is just
it's
awful. And
insane.
so, yeah, they have been amazing in providing this for free. And all the while, they've also been raising money. So, like, I
Yeah.
can't be mad at that. Um, and then a recent like TV show a friend and I watched, like we have like a FaceTime, and then we watch the show together, is Motherland Fort Salem on Freeform. It essentially is like an alternate history of the US, where back in the Salem witch trial days, a witch struck a deal with the US government so that witches from then on would essentially be the US's armed forces. But it also looks, because of that, the society is completely matriarchal. So like it's completely flipped. The president is a woman, but they didn't do the usual tropes of a matriarchy. Like the witches in the military are still very like, it's almost like they've basically just taken on that more domineering, controlling role, whereas the trope would be that women are in charge, they're all kinder and compassionate. um,
Right.
and Freeform is basically aimed at that like mid-teen to 20s demographic. So the show it's not super complex, but it was really entertaining and fun to binge, like 10 episodes. It's sad to binge anything right now because I have no idea when they'll be able to get back together and film them,
Right.
but it was still really fun to watch.
Me, when I
um
finished Pose, I was like, oh no,
oh,
wait.
I know. It's like, is it gonna be back?
You
I
just
hope it's
start
gonna be.
again. You just keep it
Right,
on a
just
loop
go
so
back to
that when
episode
you
one.
watch the next season, you're like, oh, I know the characters now and what they've been through
Right.
multiple times.
And then recently, after the events of like our charity stream a few Tuesdays ago, I've been trying to do more streams and playing a lot more visual novels, which is a genre. Like you and I are both part of the Summer of Pride, and I was doing another Pride event with another group, and just finding out about visual novels has kind of been my jam lately. Like they're fun to
Yes.
play. I'm typically an action RPG, occasionally a shooter, occasionally a simulation type person. So it's been really fun to essentially play a story, but the stories aren't afraid to be inclusive. They're not
Yeah.
afraid to make their character palette more than just a bunch of white people. There's queer content, there's inclusive content. So that's really, I've been enjoying it more than I thought I would, and that's what I love about it. But yeah.
For sure. I love that, and this is actually something that me and Passion have been talking about because of Pride Month, and there's all these events that center around like games with queer representation. And we were talking about how there's definitely a big gap in the market for any other genre, really, that for them to have better queer representation in their games, because it sucks that mostly the best representation comes from visual novels, you know? Like they're great games, don't get me wrong, but like I as a lover of like JRPGs and adventure games and like um platformers and stuff like that, I wish more queer stories and more diverse stories were told in those genres, because it is possible to do so, and games are being worked on. GLAD has been actively working with game developers to improve queer representation in the gaming industry, but there's still such a big gap there. But let's support the ones that are representing us properly from the
Yeah.
get-go. So there's so many amazing like visual novels and other types of game that you can find. There's so many summer sales going on right now, and
And like other media, it's really telling that it's independent publishers who are
yes.
putting it's independent publishers who are doing this. Like I would love for the major game studios to be able to do it, but I am also terrified that they would handle everything terribly. So
Yeah.
And they have.
I'm loving right, not even would do, already have.
Yeah.
I there we could have another talk about that. But I
Last
love
of
that it's
Us.
independent.
Sorry.
Oh yeah, no, you said hold up. You said it. All right. Tea is out. Tea is out. It's been said. I just love that it's independent companies that are able to do this, because it also means that I'm supporting. Generally when that happens, I'm also supporting marginalized creators.
Yeah.
I'm not just throwing money at some big corporation. So I also love the fact that they're putting out good work and they're getting paid for it. So that's what I love about it.
Yes.
Can I quickly
100%.
add something onto that?
Mm.
Because I know
No,
you
just
did
kidding.
encourage. Bitch. I know you did encourage like the summer sale, but I do really want to insist that you do run to itch.io rather than Steam,
Yeah.
because
Okay.
the creators do get most of the coin, and Steam didn't really speak out about Black Lives Matter, so I'm avoiding them.
Yeah.
That's
So
legit.
for me,
That's fair.
it's more about the independent makers, and if they are minorities and they are part of the LGBTQIA plus community on top of that, it's something that we need to inform ourselves about and really think about who is making most of this coin. And if they're small developers, they really need that coin. So
Yeah.
if there is something on itch.io, which most of the time I think there should be a sale on right now, or there usually is around
They have bundles as
time.
well, a ton of
Right.
them.
Yeah.
I
And
know that
you may know itch.io because of the bundle that they recently did with, I think it was like 700 games overall.
I don't even
1700.
know. Yeah, they
It
kept
is.
It was
adding
1700.
they kept adding to it. It was so amazing to see. Yeah, 1700.
Okay, way off.
And
So
part of the Summer of Pride,
Yeah.
we had a developer in channel for the game that I was playing, and everyone asked, "Is this available on Steam?" And the developer said, "Yes, but it's also available on itch."
Yeah.
And then people in the chat kind of picked up on that, and they went and they were like, "Actually, yeah, if you buy it through itch, more money goes to, it's essentially." It was nice to have the developer there saying, "Yeah, you can buy it anywhere, but here's where you can buy it that I get a little bit more coin as opposed to, so yeah."
Yeah. It's like when you're a Twitch streamer and people are like, "I want to send you money," and you're like, "Great, here's my tip button."
Right? That no one takes 50% of that.
Uh-huh. Oh yes. But speaking of amazing content creation, let's say our goodbyes and where people can find us and such. So where can people find you, Passion? I know you have a Pride event happening very, very soon.
yeah, funny you should mention DJ streams. I would never guess who would ever do such a thing.
What? Oh, wait,
Yeah,
tell me
so
more.
on Tuesday, I have a Pride DJ set, which features about 40 to 50 other streamers who will be directly introducing their own song choices and selections. It consists of LGBTQIA plus streamers and allies who actually get off their ass and do things.
Ooh.
And what? Well, it's tea.
Oh,
I would
fair.
only
Speak on
pick
it.
the best allies, believe me. And it's just been great putting it together. It's been really exhausting, but there's a lot of love and care put into it. And while it risks a lot of issues in regards to Twitch at the moment and their take on copyrighted music and such, it's really, with everything that's come out, it's really just kind of like backed me up and just been like, okay, if we're going to go out with a bang, we're going out with a bang. So expect some political, fun, celebratory, queer music and anthems and some incredible visuals at the same time.
Yeah.
And that should be announced properly either tonight or tomorrow when it
There
comes
you
to like, the
go.
lineup.
Okay, I'm ready.
As of the time of the recording, obviously,
Oh yes, and any other like footage that you wish to see of that, I'm sure it'll be found on like Patreon and other things that will be promoted on my socials. While we tie in with that, I'm PassionsPlanet, also known as Passion,
There you go.
and you can find me at PassionsPlanet on pretty much everything if you care to take any interest.
Yes. Everybody seductively follow Passion right now. You should
Thank
also
you.
be following Brian. So where can people find you? What are you going to be up to? What do you want to promote? Feel free. The floor is yours.
Oh, wow. I would love to say so many things, but I am still, my schedule's pretty casual. So I am Urban Bohemian. You can find me pretty much at that username anywhere that's ever been a social thing on the internet. And I only stream a few times a week because day job. But I'll have a stream upcoming. We'll be doing some Animal Crossing. I was able to get sort of an Animal Crossing tie-in for some merch and a creator codes. So we'll hopefully be doing a Pride event in Animal Crossing coming up soon. Otherwise, you can just catch my streams regularly and me being on Twitter, being a wordy bitch.
Yes. There you go. Follow him as well, very seductively as well, since we're in the seductive mood.
I did just follow seductively, so you're welcome.
Oh, I like
Yes.
that. That's great. I like that.
Wow.
You can also seductively follow me at Project Ruby everywhere except for Instagram, which is the Project Ruby.
I seductively unfollow.
Wow.
She's like, I said my piece and I'm out. Yeah, I'm a variety content creator who is a gamer, a talk show host, and also a singer. So expect some of that content on the platforms I'm active in. Once again, thank you to grindingcoffee.co. Make sure to get your 20% off from their website using the code Project Ruby. We love to see it. Support Black and LGBTQIA businesses. Yeah, we'll see you next week with a new episode of Breakfast at Ruby. And until then, be good to one another, be lovely to one another, and Black lives still matter. Support trans rights, support queer businesses and queer rights and queer art. And goodbye.